Paging Aitken Robertson to courtroom number 2. The jury is back with a verdict. Members of the jury, how do you find the accused? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty on all accounts, Your Honor.
Welcome back everyone to our YouTube channel, and today we are diving into an important legal topic that a lot of people have questions about. So whether you're facing legal troubles or just trying to understand your rights or just interested in how the law works, this discussion is for you. And I'm joined today by counsel Phil Stiles. Hi Phil, how are you? I'm doing fine, thanks. So Phil, today we'll be discussing mandatory minimums for certain sorts of sexual assault and sex crimes. So can you give us an overview of where things are currently standing with mandatory minimum sentences for sex crimes in Canada?
Well, the short answer, Melanie, is that many of them have been struck down by various levels of court in Canada. There was a regime of mandatory minimums for sexual offenses, particularly sexual offenses where the alleged victim under the age of 16 or in many cases under the age of 18. Courts have essentially said that many of them, I don't have the stat, just from looking at which ones are still standing and which ones aren't, it looks to be at least 70% of them have been deemed unconstitutional. And essentially the process there is that the court will look at it and say, in this particular case, given the individual and their circumstances, would the imposition of the mandatory minimum lead to cruel and unusual punishment? And then the second part is, would it be likely in hypothetical cases to lead to scenarios where there would be cruel and unusual punishment? And in many cases, the answer is yes, because everybody knows that any sexual offense against a child is serious, but there's always a spectrum. And there are certain instances where you wouldn't be saying to yourself that 1 year in jail would be the appropriate sentence for one of the lower level types of offenses or the more mild fact scenarios that the court tends to see. Yes, there are harsh mandatory minimums, or I should say there were, but many of them have been struck down by various levels of court in the country.
Phil, given the current landscape of sentencing, what should someone accused of a sex crime be most aware of?
Just because there are no mandatory minimums on the books for particular offenses doesn't mean the penalties are not significant. All the absence of a mandatory minimum means is that a judge can go below what would have been the mandatory minimum in the sentence. There was a decision a few years ago. It was a Supreme Court case. It was the Queen and Friesen, and Friesen, the courts of the Crown will say it's our call to action. The courts have said that sentences in cases involving sexual offenses against children to be, as a general rule, high. They don't quantify that. There's no, the court's careful to say there's no firm ceiling or floor, but in general, that denunciation and deterrence is paramount in cases involving sexual offenses against children. Offenders can expect high sentences. I believe the language is something like mid-range penitentiary sentences shouldn't be uncommon. Essentially, it elevates the tariff on the offense. What they're doing is trying to hold people out as examples for even conduct that falls at the lower end of the scale of what we would have considered serious.
Phil, what proactive steps can an accused take before sentencing to help reduce the penalty that they might face?
One is getting a risk assessment, going to see a psychologist and having a formal interview and getting a psychoanalysis done, a report done by a psychiatrist or psychologist. That can be an important first step because the court will be concerned about whether you are a future risk to the public. Other steps that offenders can take is to get a pre-sentence report done where it's ordered by the court, and what happens is you sit down with a probation officer and they do a deep dive into your life history, because there can be many relevant factors in your life that are unearthed in a thorough interview that might mitigate the seriousness of your conduct potentially, or might at least give the court an idea of who you are and some of the underlying causes of the offending conduct. There is one more thing that you can do, Melanie, and that is you can get a formal diagnosis for any cognitive disability that you think you may have. If you think that there is some issue that may have a bearing on your level of moral culpability, so for lack of a better term, the wrongness of your actions, then it's worth exploring it well in advance of the sentencing hearing, because the number of times the client has come to me with an undiagnosed serious issue ranging from autism spectrum disorder to serious obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, severe ADHD. There are cases that where the client has a serious issue that has a bearing on their ability to understand the nature and consequences of their actions. And that's precisely the kind of material that defense counsel needs to put before the court in order for the judge to determine what a fair sentence is. It can significantly reduce a sentence.
Thank you so much, Phil, for giving us a little bit of explanation about the mandatory minimums for certain sorts of sex crimes. So, and thank you for joining us, everyone else. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll never miss another video. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and take care. Thank you for tuning in to Legally Speaking, proudly brought to you by Aitken Robertson Criminal Defence. We represent clients facing criminal charges all over Ontario, providing you with legal support and dedicated advocacy. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more content, please like and subscribe to our channel. For more information, visit our website. We also offer free books on various types of criminal charges, which you can request on our website or by using the QR codes on your screen now. For legal assistance, call us today or visit our website to request a meeting with one of our experienced lawyers or licensed paralegals. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Legally Speaking.